Hello and welcome to 100 Yards of Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your producer this evening, Logan Landers. And joining me, as always, on Wednesdays to do these NFL draft profiles on these young prospects who are coming out of college into the big, scary world of the NFL is the man who is the walking, talking encyclopedia when it comes to football knowledge. My man, Mr. Football, Vince Turner. How you doing tonight, Vince?
Thank you, sir.
Hey, always glad to have the hype ready. I see you smiling over there. It's going to be a good show. I got a good feeling about this one. And we're talking about a very talented individual tonight. We're talking about the wide receiver coming out of USC, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Heck of a name, even more a heck of a player. And hey, also, if you guys have enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, comment, and share it. We are live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube as well as Twitch. Also, go follow our podcast. It's available on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, anywhere you listen to podcasts. We have daily shows of our old draft profiles, our old game previews, amazing Legends interviews, and anything else you want over there, and then some. Also, go follow our Instagram page as well. We upload clips of each and every show. We have little quick 30 to 50-second clips about each and every show, just giving you a little blurb about what we had going on this past week. We're doing really good over there, too, so go follow as well. We have a comment here from Mr. Michelangelo Catterson saying, "Good evening, fellas. Always nice to see you commenting, sir. You've been a great viewer lately, giving all your comments. I know you're a big Cardinals fan, so we'll see if the Cardinals are going to be in the fate for this young man today. But hey, Vince, we got this great wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Why don't you tell the people that are listening right now what you like about this young man and your world famous draft report?"
Well, I'm going to tell you this. Mr. St. Brown went to one of the most powerful college programs in the history of college football, USC. So when you think about USC, you always think royalty, greatness, excellence at the highest level. Great coaches from John McKay to John Robinson to Pete Carroll, players, Rolodexes off the chains. But I'm going to start with Mr. St. Brown. Here's a guy. When you look at the receiver position, over the last 2 weeks, we've been talking about Devontae Smith. We've been talking about Javon Chase. We've been talking about Jalen Waddle. But this is a guy that's kind of going under the radar. What I like about him, he's in the mode of all them great USC receivers. And something about it, these USC receivers, they can play on the boundary, they can play in the slot, and they can be very physical. Think about Mr. St. Brown, who he's following at that position. Keyshawn Johnson, Steve Smith, Lynn Swan, Sam Dickerson, Earl McCullough, Curtis Conway. You understand where I'm coming from this evening? The mighty Trojans. But what I like about this young man, I'm going to give him the grade report. Very physical football player, a willing blocker, A+. Football intelligence, A+. A guy that can play in the slot and play on the boundary. Yards after catch, very physical, hard football player when it comes to that. He reminds you of a guy right now that came out of USC, Juju Smith at Pittsburgh. Same type of guy, very physical after the catch. Then most of all, strong hands, A+. Change of direction, A+. Veteran savvy, A+. Excels in zone in man coverage, A+. And here's the guy, when you look at his production rate, 178 career receptions, 22,270 yards, and 16 career touchdowns. This is a guy that don't mind playing in the slot, don't mind playing on the boundary, and a guy that don't mind going over the middle, and a guy that's going to be a very productive football player at the next level. And then when you think about him, I compare him to some guys that I did my research on. He reminds me of a young man named Barry Wagner that played Division II football at Alabama State. Same type of build. Had over 189 receptions close. Let me check my notes here. Almost 1,800 yards receiving. Then he reminds me, not in stature, but the great Howard Twilley that played at the University of Tulsa. They won the Super Bowl ring with the Miami Dolphins. Then it reminds me of two guys that's close, about 3 hours from where I was raised in Memphis, Tennessee, the 901. They was raised in the 615. The University of Vanderbilt, and they had two receivers. Raymond Buggs, who was out of 901. That was a pretty good receiver, good physical block, and the guy that followed him and Chuck Scott. Then another guy that really kind of steals the tone. And when you look at Mr. St. Brown, remember Josh Reed at LSU? They had a real nice season of career with the Tigers. Remember he was a pretty good player. Remember Mississippi State when they had two studs and Danny Knight and Eric Mons. Then I'm going to take you back here, Logan. I know you're going to like this. Think about the young man that was over in the mid-90s that played with the University of Georgia, Bryce Hunter. Similar football player. Then think about this. I'm going to end this. A lot of people didn't really know about this young man, but Robert Clark that played in North Carolina Central. Mr. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to play at a good level when it comes to the 2021 NFL draft. And think about this. His father was a two-time Mr. Universe bodybuild champion, John Brown. Then his brother, Aquinas, plays right now with the Green Bay Packers. But out of the bunch, when we talk about athletes, this guy might be the best of the family tree. And the thing I like about him, when you play in the National Football League, he's not going to be a burner, but he's a guy that's got a little Terrell Owens in him. And just like all the other great guys that I just mentioned, he's a guy that can give you production on all levels of the field. You want him to run the slant, he's going to run the slant. You want him to play boundary, he's going to play boundary. And he's a big guy, 6'1", 200 pounds. And he played, I'm going to say, maybe the best college program in all of college football. I'm solid Roll Tide this evening, but the University of Southern California.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of good points there, Vincent. I mean, like you said, we've talked a lot about the big names, the Devontae Smith, the Jamar Chases, so on and so forth. But it seems like Mr. St. Brown kind of gets swept under the rug a little bit with all the hype around those two gentlemen I just mentioned. This guy is definitely no slouch. He can do anything you want in a high-quality wide receiver and then some. Like you said, he played at USC, which is one of the most storied college teams of all time. And he had a great career there. And I think, like you said, his family – very good. Obviously, his father is a bodybuilder of some sorts. Then obviously he's got a lot of muscle to him. I'm sure he was working out at a very young age. And I mean, he's in very good peak physical condition. I know his pro day was the other day. I was able to look at his numbers. He ran a 4.5 40-yard dash, a 4.27 shuttle, 20 bench reps as well. So he's showing off at this pro day and showing all this NFL scouts. Look, you might be talking about the Jamar Chases and Devontae Smiths, but don't forget about me now. Don't forget about Mr. St. Brown coming out of USC. And I think this young player is definitely one to be looking at in the NFL and going forward. And Vince, you always know I bring my three teams each and every week who I think this young man might be headed to and who I think he'd be a good fit with. So without further ado, my first team I have Mr. St. Brown headed to is the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I know the Ravens have just signed Mr. Sammy Watkins to a one-year deal. That's going to be a trial and error type of deal. I think if he has a good season, they might re-sign him. He has a little bit of experience now in the NFL, being in it for 7 to 8 years. But we all know the number one target there for Lamar Jackson is Mr. Hollywood Brown. Marquise, electrifying wide receiver. I think if you can get Mr. St. Brown on the opposite side of him, man, that could be deadly, honestly. And a lot of scouts have been saying that this young man might be headed potentially a late first, for sure a day 2 pick. We'll have to see if he creeps up into that late first overall round. But I could definitely see him being an early second rounder, no doubt about it. My second pick who I have this young man headed to is the Indianapolis Colts. They got a new QB now. They got Carson Wentz. They got T.Y. Hilton, who's been a little bit shaky the last couple of seasons. But we'll have to see. Is he going to really be the one to look at, or are they going to put more of the load over on Mr. Michael Pittman, who just signed, who has a nice contract over there as well? We'll have to see. But I think that if they do let go of T.Y. Hilton, his contract's coming up pretty soon. He's got about a year left on it. I think you're going to have to replace him, and I think Mr. St. Brown will be a nice fit to go in, plug and play, and he'd do great wonders there in Indianapolis. And finally, my third team I have this young man headed to is the Jets. The Jets, they're going to get Trevor Lawrence. It's looking like it. We've been saying it here and here out. It's looked like from day one where this man was saying he's going to go into the draft, the Jets were going to get him, not the Jets. I meant the Jaguars. Got too many J's today. Well, whoever the quarterback is for the Jets, whether if it is Sam Darnold or if they go a new direction with Justin Fields or potentially Zach Wilson, we'll have to see. But whoever the quarterback is going in for the Jets, they need a little bit of help at the wide receiver position. They do. And I think that all yes, they do have Corey Davis, who they just got locked up. They got Keenan Cole for a year. They got Jameson Crowder, who might not be there after the season. Would have to see. I think Mr. Amon St. Brown would really help the culture out there in New York. And I think that whatever team he goes to, whether it is the Colts, whether it is the Ravens or the Jets, this man is going to be a spark plug in their offense and helped them out tremendously. So, Vince, give me your final words on Mr. Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I'm going to throw one more name in there. Now, he wasn't as big as Mr. St. Brown, but kind of like the same stature, a real physical receiver, had to retire early from the NFL, Mr. Sterling Sharp. He was a guy that had a lot of production when he played with the Packers. Mr. St. Brown, to me, is going to be a very productive player when he gets drafted in the 2021 NFL draft. I like the young man. I like the young man because of two reasons. He comes from a family background. Like I said, his father, John Brown, two-time bodybuilder, Mr. Universe, and then the competition. When you go to USC, Logan, it's not like going to the University of Memphis. It's not like going to, I hate to say it, Georgia Tech. It's not like going to the University of Georgia. We're talking about going to a program that was very powerful from the 60s, Willie Wood, Mike Garrett, and the great one from Galileo High School, by way of San Francisco Community College, the legend himself, O.J. Simpson, then into the 70s, Ronnie Lott, Dennis Smith, Paul McDonald, and then Pete Carroll took that thing to another level in the 2000s with Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, Lindale White. This young man, I love him because he's coming from that type of legacy and that type of program. So my final words on Mr. St. Brown, as you know how I always do it, today, I'm going to go with a rocker. Kind of make you happy today, Logan. He had a song out. School is out for the summer. Mr. Alex Cooper, Mr. St. Brown is going to take the school out in the 2021 NFL draft.
Hey, well, school's out right now, but school's about to be in session for those defenders he's going up against, Vince. And let me tell you, Mr. St. Brown's going to be a threat in the NFL. I can't wait to see what this young man heads to. Don't sleep on him anymore. If you don't know his name now, you're going to learn how to say it. So I'm ready to see how this young man produces in the NFL. Well, hey, if you guys have enjoyed watching our show this evening, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're watching us live on Facebook, over on YouTube, or on Twitch, we appreciate all the love, the comments, the likes, the shares, and everything else you guys have given us over the past couple of months, weeks, and years. It's been tremendous. Also, be sure to go check out our podcast, available on Spotify. Just type in 100 Yards of Football. You'll see our logo at a 50-yard line. We upload daily podcasts of our shows from the week. Go back and check out some of our old previous draft profiles. See if we've predicted them right, see if they're superstars now, or see if we just totally whiffed. That's just the fun of doing these things. We always like to give our expert analysis, and we like to see how these young men are going to perform. Also, we got amazing Legends interviews with former players, former coaches, anything you like to see over there. We got a lot of great content. So go check us out over on Spotify, or we're available on Apple Podcast as well. Also, we're on iHeartRadio, and that is brought to you by the Believe Podcast Network, who've been helping us out now for around 6 months, I believe, and they've been doing a tremendous job getting our word out there and our great football content. We couldn't do it without them. Well, hey, for this amazing show we've been doing tonight on Mr. Amon-Ra St. Brown, hey, let me get his name right. We got to get the name right, Vince. Mr. Amon-Ra St. Brown, there we go, out of USC, the wide receiver. I've been your producer this evening, Logan Landers, and joining me to do these amazing draft profiles is Mr. Football, Vincent Turner. Be sure to stay tuned in because we got some more great draft prospect videos coming up in just a second. See